Alright. Lott was arrested on March 4th, 1920 at Dean Close School in Cheltenham, where he had secured a position teaching mathematics 2 months previously. He was brought to Lancashire to be charged with the murder of Bella Wright. Initially, Light emphatically denied having ever been in or near Golby on July 5th, or to meeting Wright on that day. He also initially claimed to have never owned such a green bike before police informed Ronald of a positive link to his having purchased the bike. So here he is already lying to the cops.
Yeah.
No, I didn't own it. I didn't own it. Oh, okay, I guess I did own it because now y'all know for sure I did own it because you got this serial number and found out that I bought one. So now you got to start backpedaling and figure out what to do, right? He also claimed to have sold the bike to an individual whose name he could no longer recall several years previously. Nonetheless, he was identified by eyewitnesses as the person who had been riding alongside Bella on the evening of her death, which there was witness after witness after witness in the investigation that said, yep, that was him. He was riding beside her all day.
Yeah.
So there's just too much of this, I'm telling you. Included by her uncle, Cox also identified Light from a police identity parade, which I would assume is like a police lineup, as being the individual who had repairs conducted on the distinctive green bike on the day of Wright's death. His mother's maid, Mary Elizabeth Webb, informed investigators that on July 5th, Light had not returned home until approximately 10 p.m. So he did not get back home till 10 p.m. Which is kind of concerning in this case.
Yeah.
Claiming his bike had broken down and that he had to push it home, he also sold or destroyed all the clothing he had worn that day. On March 19th, additional pieces of evidence were found. An army pistol holster conclusively identified as having been issued to Light, and a dozen live .45 caliber bullets were also dredged from the same canal in which the sections of the bike had been retrieved. The bullets were found to precisely match the spent bullet found at the crime scene. So you have a revolver holster that they can conclusively prove belongs to you in the river with the bicycle parts. You have unspent rounds that conclusively match the rounds that were found at the crime scene.
Right. I mean, and you thought you got all your serial numbers off your bike, but in actuality, you missed one.
Right.
You're being a very dumb criminal.
Right. And so, at this point, myself, I think that he did it.
Right. I mean,
there's so many things that say, hey, this motherfucker did it. But this is one of those cases that has made me mad. Because this poor woman did not stand a chance in hell.
And we're having, and the thing is in a lot of these cases, the victim do not have a voice. Or have somebody like an advocate for them, and that makes me sad. The trial of Ronald Light opened in Lancaster Castle on June 8th of 1820. 1920. I'm so sorry. It's been one of those days, y'all. He was tried before Mr. Justice Horridge, yeah. That is a very strange name, okay.
It is, but it's one of them 1919 names, I'm telling you.
And entered a plea of not guilty.
Which we kind of figured he would do.
Prosecution team considered of Sir Gordon Hewart,
Which was the Attorney General at the time.
Right. Norman Burkitt and Henry Maddox. Okay.
Right, and that was the team that was supposed to defend
For Bella.
Bella.
Okay. So she was being or they were being her advocate, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
He was defended by Sir Edward Marshall.
Now that
Hall.
that is who defended Ronald. That was Ronald's lawyer.
Okay. The prosecution agreed that a mile west of Galby, for unknown reasons, Wright had fled from Light, panicked, and headed south on an inferior road that was a possible route home, but not the shortest one. Light took an alternative route with intentions to ambush her and had laid in wait as a gate where he shot her once before fleeing from the scene. To support this argument, eyewitnesses and other individuals were introduced to testify as to having seen Light in the company of Wright on the evening of her murder, to his ownership of the bike, and his later efforts to both remove identifying marks on the bike and disposing of the bike, the revolver holster, the unspent bullets of the same caliber as the bullets used to kill Bella in the River Soar, in obvious efforts to conceal physical evidence linked him to the murder. Furthermore, upon his arrest, Light was processed to tell the police numerous lies until confronted with either proof or
inconsistencies.
Thank you. In his claims.
Right. Now, Edward Marshall Hall focused on the lack of obvious motive and absence of witness to the death to the death. Marshall Hall also raised doubt over the bullet found near Bella. Mr. Brown said he suggested it could have come from a rifle. He also suggested it bore marks of a ricochet. Moreover, he pointed out such a bullet may have nothing to do with Bella, and also that her death was perhaps a tragic accident. Two girls, Muriel Nuni, 14, and Valeria Caven, 12, would also testify for the prosecution that approximately 3 hours before Light had encountered Wright, he had pestered them as they rode their bikes close to where Wright's body was subsequently found. Okay, so a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old testified that he was pestering them around the spot where they found Bella's body.
So he had been in that area the whole time and was making rounds around it.
Apparently.
Until he found his victim.
Right.
So my question is, from his previous stuff in school where he was like sexually trying to assault the girls, things like that, if that's not what he was trying to do. Like, was he trying to find that one that he could abduct and, assault sexually or...
Yeah, see, that's what I was trying to point out during our research, that this girl didn't have a chance. And once we finish getting through the trial, you're really going to see this poor woman didn't stand a chance back then. And I really feel sorry for her and her family for not getting the closure that they deserved.
Yeah.
But at his insistence and on the advice of his lawyer, Light opted to testify in his defense. So he's testifying in his own defense, saying stuff like, When Bella Wright was murdered, I knew from newspaper reports the next day that she was the girl I had been with just before she died. I knew the police wanted to question me. I became a coward again. I never told a living soul what I knew. I got rid of everything that could have connected me with her because I was afraid. I see now, of course, that I did the wrong thing.
What do you think?
Yeah. In his testimony, Light conveyed himself as a well-spoken demeanor. He readily admitted to having lied to the police upon his arrest, before essentially admitting to everything testified to by other witnesses presented at his trial, but his possession of the service revolver and Wright's killing, claiming they had parted company at a junction close to Kings Norton soon after she had left her uncle's cottage in his company. So he's admitted to everything but killing her and the service revolver. That's what I'm understanding, is he has admitted to everything but that. On cross-examinations, Light admitted that the holster, bullets, and bike recovered from the canal were indeed his, but claimed he had disposed of these items in a panic. Excuse me, if you're in a panic, you're not going to take the time to take it the fuck apart.
No.
And throw it piece by piece into the river. You're not going to take that time if you're panicked.
And one, I mean, come on. If you were going to take it apart, you would have done it at home and then transported it.
And you wouldn't have filed serial numbers off.
I mean, you would have went through every little thing. You'd have tried to burn it.
So that part doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But having read the press coverage surrounding Wright's murder and nothing the general public and media consensus that the man seen riding alongside her on a green bike had been responsible for her death. Well, that's the only logical assumption you could make. He admitting that as an officer in the Army, he had owned a Webley Scott service revolver. However, he claimed that when posted in the Army, posted overseas, he had taken the revolver with him, but not the holster. And that when he had became a casualty, all of his belongings had been left in a casualty clearing station in France in 1918.
So pretty much a year before the murder.
That's what he's claiming. Overall, Light's version of events as he presented them to the court could not be contradicted or disproved in any detail.
Okay.
Despite being subjected to 5 hours of cross-examination, they cross-examined him for 5 hours. They grilled this man for 5 hours on the stand. Okay? He did not contradict himself on any detail. Despite being subjected to 5 hours, despite admitting that the prosecution had produced ample circumstantial evidence, a single occasion proving Light had been in Wright's company shortly before her death. Marshall Hall stressed to the jury his client freely admitted the truth to their testimony, before emphasizing the lack of motive for his client to have killed Wright, adding the two had not known each other before their chance encounter on the evening of her death, and she had not been robbed, attacked, or subject to any form of sexual assault. Like that clears you. This woman is dead.
So who's to say that you didn't kill her before you got the chance to sexually assault her?
That's what I'm saying. Like that gives you an excuse. This woman is dead, and you just, I didn't rob her. I didn't sexually assault her.
But you did.
But she's dead.
Right. But, I mean,
so explain. Why couldn't you have come forward and told this? Anyway, Marshall Hall restricted his examination of Light largely to technical matters. He also questioned the testimony of the expert witness on ballistics. The gunsmith and gunmaker Henry Clark, who had testified that the bullet which killed Wright had sustained damage that may have been caused by a ricochet, and that the bullet could have easily had came. This is where it's going to mess with you. The bullet could have easily had came from a rifle as well as a revolver.
Wait, what?
So he's saying that the same bullet that can be fired out of a revolver can be fired out of a rifle.
I don't know that's to be false. No, but in those days you might have been able to, depending on how they were made, but...
Right. So, you've got all of this that he's sitting here arguing. But my argument is the ricochet. Okay, if it was a through and through, which they say it was, it went in below the left eye and exited the right side of the head. Okay, if that bullet would have impacted anything, it would have messed the bullet up and gave it the illusion that it ricocheted, but it actually didn't ricochet until after it came through her skull and bounced off of something. Then it looked like a ricochet, but that's not that's more advanced than what they were thinking back then.
Right.
Okay, so now easily came from a rifle. Okay, thereby introducing the possibility that a stray shot fired from a distance by another individual could have inadvertently killed Wright, and that as such, her death may have been the result of a misadventure. Marshall also argued that a person shot at close range from a service revolver would have sustained much greater damage to their face, where Wright had only a small entry wound beneath her left eye and a larger exit wound on the right side of her head. To this statement, Clark replied, "It depends on the velocity." Marshall Hall argued that this alternate scenario was a more likely explanation of Wright's death. This theory and Light's courtroom demeanor were apparently enough to instill sufficient reasonable doubt within the minds of the jurors and earn Light's acquittal as they deliberated for 3 hours. They took 3 hours to say, "You're not guilty." That's right. You heard me right. I said not guilty. They found this man not guilty, but he had the pistol. He had the sleeve or the case that it went in. He had the bicycle. He destroyed the bicycle parts. He got rid of his clothes. He done everything that screams, "I'm guilty." And they said, "You're not guilty." The verdict on June 11th was cheered by many spectators present within the courtroom.
Wow, not guilty.
Not guilty.
Excuse me?
Yep.
Okay. Wright was buried in the churchyard of St. Mary and All Saints, Stroughton on July 11th of 1919 in a ceremony conducted before several hundred mourners. W.N. Westmore, the vicar of Stroughton. Well, there ain't no R.
Stoughton.
Yeah, asked all present to reflect on this poor girl who had been taken away from them. Following his acquittal, Light returned to live with his mother in Lancaster, where he initially maintained a somewhat reclusive lifestyle. For a time, he assumed the name Leonard Estelle. Okay. He was fined in December of 1920 for registering under a false name at a hotel where he had been staying with a woman. By 1928, Light was living in
Laysden-on-Sea.
Thank you. On the Isles of Shippey, Kent. In 1934, he married widow Lillian Lester. Ronald Light died on March 15th, 1975.
Correction, May 15th.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
You're right. Correction, it was May 15th of 1975 at the age of 89. His body was cremated at Charing Cemetery.
Crematorium.
Yeah, thank you. I was about to say cemetery. Near Ashford. And his ashes was scattered in the crematorium's garden of remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
Light had no children of his own, and his stepdaughter had no notion of Light's trial and acquittal until after his death. For several decades following Light's acquittal, his green bike hung on the wall of an
Evington.
Thank you. It's late, y'all. Cycle shop. Although its current whereabouts are unknown.
But you got to stop and think about this. Okay, he got an acquittal. He lived his life, got married, and his stepdaughter didn't even know nothing about the trial, the acquittal, none of that. So living your whole life after you meet this guy and not know nothing about it.
Right. Opinions among criminologists and authorities alike vary as to both Light's guilt and innocence of Wright's murder. The actual circumstances surrounding her death, for example, in his 1930s book, The Green Bicycle Case, Herbert R. Wakefield contains Light had been innocent of Light's death, whereas author Kristen Wendy West concludes in her 1993 book, The Green Bicycle Murder, that Light was extracted from the jury in his trial testimony.
No.
Sorry. Guilty and charged. And are adding the
contemporary class structure
plus a degree of sympathy Light had extracted from the jury in his trial testimony had played a significant role in his acquittal. Other writers had put forth views and contradicting Wright's death, including the possibility that Light killed Wright accidentally while showing her his service revolver, which was inadvertently discharged. I mean, it is a possibility. Or that she was killed by someone else entirely. This accidental killing theory is backed by a note supposedly written by a Lancaster superintendent of police, Levi Boley.
Mm-hmm.
3 days later, after Light's acquittal, Boley's note claims that while in prison awaiting trial, Light confessed the accidental death scenario to him. The the
authenticity of the note, yeah, it's been questioned, and there's no way of knowing now whether it was real or not, since he is dead, she's dead. Most of the people that were tied to this case are probably dead and gone, so you're kind of left to draw your own conclusions on this one. But with everything that I read and all of our research, that man was guilty and he should have been locked up. I don't know how he was able to skirt the system like that with so much of the evidence pointing straight at you, and you walk scot-free. I don't know. That poor girl.
I just feel bad for her because she really didn't get to have a voice. Her family was not able to be her voice.
Yeah, because they were out of it too. They really were.
I mean, and I know they were going through a lot. It had to have been very devastating. So, wow. And he got not guilty.
Not guilty, yeah. That was That was the biggest thing right there. Not guilty. 3 hours and you come back with not guilty. Why? Because he's a guy? Because he's military?
Right.
And I hate to be that way because, you know, I support our military, our boys and girls that go over and fight. They made us something else. I'm telling you that right now. But I'm not going to sit here and treat you special just because you came from the military and you're not supposed to be able to do stuff like that. You're supposed to be defending our rights and freedoms, not taking life from us.
And see, I support our troops because I have an uncle that's been in the military. I have 2 nephews in the military. I have what I call my adopted daughter. It's my oldest daughter's best friend. Her and her husband both are in the military. Matter of fact, one of them is stationed in Germany right now. You know, so, and then I have my youngest daughter that's wanting to follow in the military steps. So, you know, I support them 100%, but you still got to look at everything as a whole, as an individual person, not as a...
Were there some factors in the background that were red flags? Yes.
Most definitely.
I mean, he was pulling dresses over little girls' heads. That's red flag 1 right there. Hey, something needs to be done about this guy.
And then the inappropriate and sexual assault behavior towards 2 other young girls. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And then he was pestering these other 2 girls. So there's something there.
Yeah.
Somehow.
But we will leave it to you guys. You guys can go do a little bit of your own research and come to your own conclusions if you would like. If you feel that we didn't cover this subject enough, drop us an email. Let us know. Well, if you want us to go deeper, we can try to go deeper. I mean, we went as deep as we could. It took us almost 3 weeks to get this done, and it would have been posted probably 2 days ago, but we went to finish it up, and for whatever reason, 85% of our research that was scripted out kind of just disappeared. So, and yes, you do see us reading from a script in ways that it kind of keeps us on track because we both have ADHD and we get a little distracted because it's like squirrel.
Very much so. And also, you can go to our Facebook page at Guy's Mysterious Corner and post, and we can have a discussion there. Again, email at gaiasmysteriouscorner@gmail.com. You can also leave us a voice message on Anchor, leave us reviews on Spotify. We greatly appreciate it.
Definitely leave us a review on Spotify. If you listen to us on Spotify, we welcome you to come over. It's, of course, Guy's Mysterious Corner. It's not hard, guys. And we love you guys. We sit here and do all this kind of as a side thing for you guys and for us because, you know, we like to sit here and talk about stuff, and it'd be much easier if we had people that listen to us instead of just us talking to each other all the time.
Yeah. So until next time, y'all have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.